Hello and welcome to jasonnewland.com. My name's Jason Newland. This is Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. It's a little bit messy behind me, but there's a reason for that. And the reason is that I'm messy. I'm just a messy person. Yes. So, did I say only listen when you can safely close your eyes? You might think, well, you've just said it. How can you not remember saying it? It's because it's one of those automatic things that I say, but I don't always remember actually doing it. So sometimes I say it more than once because it's so important. It's so important. It's really important. So, let me show you this, if I can do it without causing a problem. Oh, maybe, I don't know. I'll tell you what, if I take this out. I've got a microphone. I'm not using it now. I'm trying to do it without causing problems for the camera. Okay, here we go. Ugh. See? This is the... Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you can see that. There is... It's a binaural... What's it called? 3DO. So it's basically got ears on both sides, and it's for the ASMR whisper recordings I'm going to be doing. So I got it yesterday, so I'll move out of the way. So, ooh, go away. So I got it, and I thought, I was a little bit, I don't know, excited, but I wanted to test it. I wanted to see if it fitted into the Zoom recorder. Recorder, studio, whatever you call it. I couldn't get it to work. I really kept trying and was struggling to get the thing to work. Then eventually I did. This is a boring story. You got to admit to that. Boring. I got it to work eventually. And I had a little bit of satisfaction. I had a little bit of, I was fairly pleased with myself for figuring out how to do it. And, I did read the manual. I went and watched some YouTube videos. And this morning, when I woke up, I went on and I thought, well, I needed to make a recording because I didn't do a Let Me Bore You to Sleep yesterday. So I thought I'd do it early and upload it. Could not get the Zoom studio to work. I took that microphone out and put the normal one back in. Wasn't happening. I've done something to it. There was a bit of a burp there, sorry. Excuse me. I did something to it. And I've watched numerous YouTube videos. I've Googled it. And I can't get the thing. It's basically the master, the red master thing. Nothing happening. So I think it is recording, and I didn't test it because I wanted to. Well, I need the master because I can listen to that with the headphones. And the whole thing is, this has got, as you can see, it's got two 2 cords, one for each ear. Well, it's funny. So when you're talking to left ear, you can hear it with your left ear. Right ear with your right ear. If you talk behind it, you can hear it behind yourself. If you've got headphones on, that is. You can still get a sense without headphones, but it's more prominent with the headphones on. So if you was to have the microphone there and to walk around it, you could feel like someone's walking around you, talking to you. So if you had your eyes closed and you say, where's the person? Well, you're over there, aren't you? You're there, or you're there, or, you know. Why you would just be there with your eyes closed, having someone walk around you, asking you to guess where they are, probably not going to happen, but, you know, as an example, yeah. So, really messed up what I'm doing a little bit. Really a little bit. It can't be both really, can it? Can't it be really slightly? It's really slightly annoyed me. I'm utterly, generally upset. So yeah, so that's what I've done. I couldn't figure it out, so I ended up getting this, which was in my storage, which is, it's a backup. I'll show this to you. This is my Focusrite. And lucky, look, it's got two things. And I didn't know, I thought it took the lead, the power lead, I couldn't find it. I found it eventually, but so I guess I could find it, but it took a while in my storage to find this, the thing to plug it in. But the actual lead itself connects to the iPad. So I can record on the iPad, which is how I used to do things. This is how I used to do it. And it shouldn't be any different to when I do it on the studio, because there is a difference, because I can control the settings in a way, you know, a bit better on there than I can on the iPad. But it's still okay, you know, it's still going to sound okay, and I can get it, I can change it in editing, in production, post-production, I think. And, you know what I mean? My little finger's become numb lately. Not completely numb, but just a little bit tingly, a little bit numb. Ow, not that numb, but nummy, a little bit nummy. Went online, thought I'd check it out. Don't ever check stuff out online. If you're concerned about something, go to the doctors. Don't check it out online, because basically it could be, you know, they go to the extreme. I mean, syphilis or the Black Plague, you know, it's like, no, it's just a fingertip. So I managed to get that microphone working with that preamp, which is what it is, a preamp. And it records each one individually. So I'm going to test it out later and see if I can try to put them together. Yeah, I should be. I got to figure it out, but it should be fine. Worst case scenario is just just be a normal recording and you won't hear right or left. Kind of defeats the object of having that microphone. However, the good thing in the pros and cons of the microphone that I've discovered so far, it's incredibly sensitive. It's incredibly sensitive, which is why it's good for whispering, and so you can hear stuff. But it also picks up background sounds, which is kind of the opposite to what I want, but also exactly what I want, because I want it to pick up the whispers. And you know, if you go like it's like really, I don't know, just it's basically for ASMR. It's binaural. It's supposed to be spatial, and it's for that reason. So, for example, if I got a little thing to hold it with, I could go into the field and pick up all the sounds of the birds and the squirrels humping each other and all the different things, and it'd be lovely. The leaves falling off the trees, the wind, although the wind would probably be problematic, but you can put it's funny, you put earmuffs on it. It's right. Normally, like, you have a thing like this thing on here is to just. All I've got that there. The sound would probably be better if I didn't have that on there in some ways, but it cuts down like and all that stuff. So, and now I've got this. I'm not using my camera. I'm using the iPhone, and with the iPhone, I'm using this. So I've got the lead from this. So the microphone there into there, and then that lead going into the microphone. And as you can see, when I talk into it, that comes on. And when it's blue, nothing. Green, talking. So I put that down there gently. Now, not ideal because, as you know, or if you've listened lately, I've only just started using the camera, and I wanted to, it's a little bit easier. I look a bit lopsided here. It's a little bit easier, the camera, in some ways, because I can take the disc out and put the disc into, like, transfer it to the iPad and then start editing a lot quicker than if I upload it using the Air thing that Apple has. So I can transfer it to the iPad, but then it just takes a bit of a while. It takes a little bit of a while to do it. And my plan was to start using Adobe editing software, which will be on the laptop, which then means I won't be able to airdrop. You know what? It was a word I was trying to think of the other day. And I was talking about moving into a home, into a place which was fairly quiet, busy road, but other than that, it was, And then they started building and laying down the foundations for some new homes right next to where I was. Literally, I looked out my window and that's where it was. There's a fence and that was there. It was like there was I looked out my window, a driveway, our driveway, that went into the garden, and then the fence, and then. So it wasn't far away. A hypnoscope. What is it? What's that word? A hop and a stitch away. Hip and a hop? Something like that, anyway. Not far. I just don't know where that term came from. Childhood, I think. And they were pumping into the ground, like banging into the ground. These big shafts were pumping into the hole. And I couldn't remember what it's called, but I knew it used to shake the building. Couldn't remember the name of it. And I just realised I had a physical learning of that word, because this morning the road was being dug up and it was shaking the house, and straight away, pile driving. I was like, pile driving, that's what they were doing. They were pile driving. They weren't doing it outside, but it was the same kind of sound and the same shaking of the building, like boom, 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 all that. So yeah, pile driving. So I had that word connected to the physical feeling of being shook. by the vibrations of the house and the people out, making that noise. I'm trying to move my hand. I suppose I could move the microphone like that, but it's like a bit in a way, isn't it? Sometimes I have the microphone like this, so I suppose I could. That's probably a bit better. As long as it doesn't fall off. I've got this screw that I do to keep it kind of attached, but it gets loose. And then sometimes I forget which way to screw it. So I think I want to screw this thing in. I forget which way it screws. And it falls off, and luckily I catch it. But I don't want this. It's got a little bit of safety, because it's surrounded. I've got to stop touching the thing. Stop touching that thing, Jason. It'll fall off. So yeah, I don't want it falling off, you see, because I don't want it breaking. I saw this person on TV. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a football thing or whatever. But this man, he was speaking in English. He wasn't English, but he was speaking in English. And at the end of every sentence, it was, we're going there, and now, we're going to be, thinking about the children, and we will be, and everything was, It's like, that's just kind of, but it was like every sentence. It's like, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that's like that for other people in other countries, and they get someone from, let's say, England or America or an English-speaking country speaking their language, and they're thinking, wish you could do it properly. Why do you keep going, at the end of each one? Or, bonjour. Why do you keep going, at the end of that? Or, why do you all speak so slowly? It must be slow motion for people in other countries that hear English people speaking their language. I mean, I know, it's like, some people like to say, if you're going into someone else's country, you should speak their language. Okay, so I'm going on holiday for a week. I'm supposed to learn a language for a week's holiday. Are you kidding me? That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But at the same time, I do expect everyone to speak English. I don't. But hotels, yes. But then, in reality, you can't expect someone who's working in a hotel, even if it's a big hotel and it's a famous hotel, can't expect them to speak every language in the world, because I'm sure there's nobody that exists that can speak all languages. But then there's that argument, well, English is the universal language. Most people can speak English. I don't think most people can speak English. How many Chinese people can speak English? And they take up, 20% of the world? How many Indian people can speak English? How many Brazilian people can speak English? How many, I bet you the percentage of people not from English countries, English-speaking countries, that can speak English, I bet you that percentage is not a huge amount. And why should it be? But we're not that expectation of what everyone can speak English, can't they? Well, no. Why would they? Yeah, if you want to get on in the Western world, well, not even the Western world, because let's face it, Europe's the Western world, isn't it? And there's, I just find it funny that how different countries that are actually literally just one country. A continent is a country, isn't it, really? I know it's not, but it's a bit of land. An invisible barrier, and you've got people speaking different languages. I mean, I'm not quite sure. How did that work? I realise it's anthropology, and it's a subject that I've not really, well, I'm not interested in, but sometimes I think, how do you, like, you're literally a few miles away and you've got a completely different language? It doesn't make sense. It don't make sense at all. I don't know. Maybe, I suppose, because I was told that, because I used to live in this horrible little town when I was about 7 to the age of 19. It wasn't horrible, it was just the people. It was a backward town. I think it still is, really, but it was backward. It's kind of stuck in time. I'm sure it's progressed a little bit. It's probably getting into the 90s now. Probably reaching the 90s, not just the average age, but the, 1990s. But it was always a backward town. It was good in one way because it was a relatively safe place to live. It was didn't have the benefits nor the unbenefits of, living in a city. I was going to say big city, but London's the only big city. All the other cities are like really small compared to London. It's compared to the amount of people, that is, not the size of land, but the size of the amount of people is very condensed in London. Lots and lots and lots of people. Lots of people everywhere. Now Manchester, I've been through Manchester. I've been to Liverpool. I've been to Nottingham. I think Nottingham's a city, isn't it? I've been to Norwich. Is Norwich a city? So I've been to a few cities. Apparently Ipswich is a city, but didn't realise that. That's what I've been told. So there's quite a few cities that I've been to, and they're just towns. They're just big towns, and there's nothing like London. Absolutely nothing like London. And that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, London it's all right. But I lived there for 12 years. I was born in London, but I lived for 12 years during my adulthood, during my 20s. And the only real good thing about, I quite like London, being able to walk down the street and not know anyone. For me, the old Cheers, remember the Cheers song, where everybody knows your name. If you want that, go and live in a little village or a little town with little gossipers. They might know your name. They might not know you. They might not talk to you, but they'll kind of, everyone is going to kind of know each other and know each other's business and stuff. You don't get that in London. Partly because there's so many different cultures and little groups, separate groups that keep to themselves. But more importantly, because no one cares. No one's interested in other people, generally. I lived in places I never got to know my neighbours, and I recommend never getting to know your neighbours. If you can, if you move into a new place, keep away from the neighbours. Just generally, initially anyway, and see how the land lies. Leave it a few years, and if you can be friendly, but don't get involved. That's my advice in life. Don't get involved in anyone's life ever. But then I suppose I've just had a bit of bad luck with that stuff. I've met a few nice people in my life. I've met a lot of problematic people. I remember when I was younger, I'd have these like older men, befriend me. Men that were like 20 years older than me, or 15 years older than me, you know, like, and almost try and take me under their wing, I guess. And I used to look up to them and think, oh, they're all wise. But quite often they talk down to me like I was dumb and, well, something's scratching at the window. And then as I got older, the tables turned and it ended up that they were the dumb ones. Not dumb, but like they weren't as wise as I thought they were. They were just human beings. And they weren't as bright or as clever as they thought they were. Weren't as knowledgeable. And I think one problem, and maybe I have the same thing, is I've noticed with people as they get older, sometimes, some people, not all people obviously, some people that I've known, they refuse to take in new information. And what I mean, I don't mean technology. But that's something that we kind of all need to, I don't know if the word embrace is right, because we have to accept it, I think. Because the world is online now. There's so much stuff. I don't like all of the stuff that's online. I don't like going into shops, but I like the fact that shops are there. I don't want to see the shops closed down. Everything. I mean, I think probably the dumbest thing I've seen, probably the dumbest, among one of the dumbest things I've seen over the last few years, was my doctor's surgery. They don't want you going to the reception to book in with an appointment. They've got a touch screen that you go to, and you put in, basically you sign in on the touch screen. Yeah. And you might, if you think, why is that dumb? Then I'm not going to be rude. I'll explain it. I'll explain why it's dumb. People are going into the surgery with all kinds of illnesses. And quite often they're having an appointment because they don't know what's wrong with them. Diseases, not, communicable disease. I don't know, things that you can pass on to other people. They don't know what it is. And they're going in, touching the screen. And the next person's coming in who's going in because he's got a bad back, touching the screen. And he's getting those germs from that person that maybe's got flu or has got something that's not healthy, that's not good. So spreading that stuff around. They learnt nothing from those 2 years that we just had, where the one thing you should not have, and what McDonald's have it, in a place where they serve food. So people are coming in off the street, ordering their food with their fingers, and then getting their food, sitting down, and then with their fingers and their hands eating that food. So basically, they might as well just ask each other to spit in each other's mouths, because that's what they're doing. Or like, can I suck your fingers, please? I don't care, don't know, it's fine. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Because they're spreading the germs around. So it's a bit grim. So McDonald's do it. Supermarkets kind of started the trend, didn't they, really? And I refuse to use those machines, those automatic payment things. I don't do it. I've actually queued up, and I had this isn't it. I don't go into supermarkets hardly ever, but I remember I went in once, and I think there was 2 trolleyfuls of shopping ahead of me. 2 people with trolleyfuls shopping, big old, like a week's worth of shopping, and about 3 people behind me was with trolleys, and I was just there with a little basket with maybe 6 or 7 items. And one of the staff came up to me and said, "Come on, we'll do it over there." I said, "No." First she said, "If you do it over there." I said, "No." She looked at me like, how dare I defy her? It's like, I just told you to do that and you didn't do it. She said, "Oh no, it's quicker if you do it." "No, you're right. Because I don't want to touch screens. As it is, I touch with my knuckle or with that part of my hand. But still, it doesn't always register it because it's hard skin and bony. And I don't want to touch that stuff. Plus, it's like, how often there's the things that are not recognised, don't recognise what you got there. You can't pay by cash, you have to pay by card. It's like, well, I've only got cash on me. It's tough, you got to pay by card. But I haven't got any money in the bank. I've just drew it all out. It's my cash. But you got to pay by card. Like, it's very hard to have a conversation with a screen, which is what I'm doing now, really, isn't it? But so I've never really enjoyed those things. I do use them when I have to, like in the airport or things like that. I'll if I have to, even Saturday Thursday, I was standing outside the court all day, like literally from 9 until 3:30, something like that, with an hour lunch when I got to sit down. And I was looking, and there was someone in the ticket office. It's basically opposite a train station. And there was someone in the ticket office selling, and they were there all day. As soon as I finished and I went to buy a ticket, they were closed. So I had to get it from the machine. So again, you've got all these people touching it, all these diseases and germs and stuff. And I'm not a germaphobe, but I am. But I'm not. But I am. But I'm not. I'm not like. I'm careful. I try and be careful. But for me, it's logical because, without being grim, I know that, I'm with a degree of certainty, I would say that not even 50% of people wash their hands after they've been to the toilet. In this country, I don't know about other countries, but I'd say probably not even 50%. That's a hazard, a guess. Probably less than that, especially males. But I've done some research. Apparently, females are pretty bad as well. I've got a lot of female friends, and they say, yeah, constantly seeing women just coming out of the toilet and of course, sometimes I do dress up and pretend to be a woman. Hard to pull it off with this beard, but it's not the most hygienic thing. I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. I mean, it might be wonderful. It might be really healthy. Going to McDonald's, bit of excrement on your burger. Maybe that's a really good thing. It helps the digestion, maybe. And that's what we really need in a doctor's surgery, isn't it? Yeah. I think that if anyone goes into a toilet and they don't go near the sink, then as they walk through the door out, they should get squirted that turns onto them, so it turns them green or blue, like a blue patch all over their top or on their head or whatever. So it squirts on their head, so all the top of the head's green or blue or pink. And they might not know about it. They might not realise it, but it's just, and they come out and everyone can see that they haven't washed their hands. Is there, I think people need to be not publicly flogged, but definitely, because that's medieval. I mean, if you want that, you have to go back in time or go to another country, I guess. Go to the World Cup. If you want to get publicly flogged, go to the World Cup and kiss another man or another woman. Yeah. So, Qatar. That's going to be interesting. I don't really get political, but I don't know if that's really a political thing. I suppose it is. It's a social thing, isn't it? So that's the thing. This little town that I lived in when I was a kid, from 7 to 19, it was a backward town. It was very backward. It was, there were, and I guess part of that was because it was the least multicultural place one of them that you could live. I live in another really what's the right word? It's not very multicultural here in this area that I live. And there's a few different nationalities and whatever, but compared to London or to some parts of the country, it's really not. And the ironic thing is, some of the most hardline, I don't want to use the R word, some of the most hardline, go back to your own country people, those people, live in places that are the least multicultural, I've found. It's very strange. It's almost like I'm going to be angry on behalf of someone that lives 200 miles away. Yeah, that don't make sense to me. How do they get talking about machines and all the germs from those machines? Oh yeah, anyway, this woman in the supermarket, she worked in a supermarket, and she said, well, if you come with me, I'll do it with you. I'll do it on the machine with you. No, thanks. But you're going to be waiting ages. You've only got 7 objects and there's 2 trolleys ahead of you. And they're not letting you ahead. Like, I let people ahead. If I've got a trolley, sometimes I've let like 10 people go ahead of me if they've only got a few bits. Eventually, I have to get in and just put my stuff on the conveyor and pay for it. And guaranteed, a couple of more people will come along behind me with their baskets with like a couple of items, and you can see how angry they are that I'm there with, a big shop, quite a few items. And I look at them and I smile, because ultimately I know that I've already let 10 people ahead of me already. And the only reason that they're queuing behind someone with a trolley is because of lack of staff in that supermarket. So it's not my issue. I've done my bit. I've spent like 15 minutes letting people through, because I don't like being stuck behind someone with a huge trolley. Sometimes, if I'm in a hurry, or if I'm at lunch and it's work and I've only got like 40 minutes or whatever. So, because I've got a little bit more time, I guess I don't mind doing that. I let people through. But it's amazing, no matter how many people you let through, guaranteed someone will come along and they'll just have the ump. I had that. This is last year. I'm banging everything here, banging the table. I mean. Last year, before I went to, it was last year. Before I went to Cornwall, for a week. Cornwall for a week with a friend. And I think it was like the day before, and this was in June, I think. I was in the petrol station, and I was just paying for something, and I think I was paying with change, so I had to get the change out of my pocket, you know. I couldn't have been at the counter for long, more than like a couple of minutes. It wasn't like a huge amount of time. And there was this bloke moaning. And he had a cup of coffee, because there's got a coffee machine in there. And he was moaning. And I said, what? And we had a little bit of an argument. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It's like, he was clearly had a bit of a distorted thinking. You know, I've been waiting here ages. Well, no, you haven't. It's been 2 minutes, minute and a half. That's not ages. It's ages when you got your ball sack in a bowl of boiling water. Yeah, that's ages. A minute and a half's a long time. But he didn't. He was just waiting for to pay for his coffee and whatever. And maybe he needed a toilet. But then there's a toilet in there as well, so he could have just gone to the toilet in there. And I nearly had an argument with him. I really did. And I don't know if he was really having a go at me or the person behind the counter, or a bit of both. I wasn't really sure. But it was annoying. And it was like, come on, man. It's like 2 minutes. See, now people have gone back to their basically standing up your bumhole, waiting in the queue. You know, it's that, you know, that distance we managed to get during COVID, where a lot of people didn't even abide by it anyway, but there was a degree of training. People got trained to kind of, you know, to stand a little bit away from each other. As soon as before that happened, people were like literally right behind each other. I remember sometimes like I'm putting my number into the key thing, you know, to pay. That's before I had a connectless thing. Oh, you're trying to get my number from me. What were you doing? What? You're not going to get served any quicker by being inside my ear. I mean, I'm sure he would have walked through me if he could have done. I've had people that I'm actually paying, and as I'm being handed my receipt, they're putting their stuff on the counter. It's like, are you serious? I don't know. I don't know if it's this country, but manners has gone. Manners don't seem to exist very much these days. And it doesn't seem to be just the younger generation. It seems to be people my age, older, like the whole of society, not everyone, but broadly around. There's a lot of rude people that just don't. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. And I don't think they mean it rudely either. I think they're just. It's weird because the way that we were brought up in this country, I know not everybody, some people were brought up or dragged up or weren't, you know, really not very well educated by their parents or whatever. But generally, in my day, 100 years ago, we used to say thank you and please and hold the doors open for people. Not hold the doors open for women, hold the doors open for anybody. Didn't matter if it's a woman, man, dinosaur. It didn't matter. You know, if you see someone coming, then you get out of the way. No, then you open the door for them. Or you leave the door open instead of letting it slam on them. It's just common courtesy. In the same way as if you're in a queue, you give the person a little bit of space. We're not dogs. We don't have to sniff each other's bums. You know, we can give each other some space. I understand I must have a wonderful smelling bum because everyone wants to get into it. Now that sounds wrong. But I want to have a little bit of space. I don't want people right close to me. This is before COVID. This isn't a new thing. And, you know, going to work with a cold, you're an idiot if you do that, basically. And I know it's not through choice a lot of the time. It isn't. And there's some companies, they just won't let you have time off, even though legally they have to. If you're unwell, you can have time off. You don't have to go to work when you're ill. I suppose there are some jobs when we have to be thankful that people do go to work when they're ill. But then they're spreading it. Someone has a cold or flu or whatever, they're spreading it. So a doctor, a paramedic, you know, they're valuable, so valuable. A nurse, so valuable. But then they're going into an environment where people have got low, you know, healing systems. I can't think of the word. So where getting just a common cold could be very bad for that person. And that nurse is, you know, singing inside their head, "There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, I'm coming to work and I want to fart." I don't know, like, spit, sneezing, "I'm a hero. I've come to work even though I'm unwell. Achoo, achoo." Spreading it around, making other nurses and other doctors ill, you know. And it seems like it was never encouraged for people to stay at home. It was almost people guilted into coming in even when they were ill. Now, I decided years ago, years and years and years ago, I think it was about 2004, I was never going to work while I was ill, ever again. So if I had a cold, I would not go to work. I decided that and I stuck to it. Because all you're doing is spreading it. So, you know, these people, there's got to be someone you care about where you work. So you don't want to make them ill, do you? And if you work in a big place, you spread it, and eventually it'll come back to you, you know, in like a month or two, you know, spread all the way around, and you get it back. I've seen people come into work in an office, honestly, can hardly breathe. They're like, and they got a scarf on and they got it covered. I can hardly talk. Like really unwell. Yeah, they come into work thinking, and this is a call centre. This isn't an important thing. This is just they're an admin or something, you know, like smelling smelling something nice, sort of trying to clear their nose and stuff. Like, go home. If anything, the company should pay you to leave, because the amount of money they're going to lose with you being here, not right now, but in the coming weeks, you're going to spread that to how many people? If there's 300 people in an office or in a building working together, air conditioning, spreading it around. Think of the thousands upon thousands of pounds that company's going to lose in illness, because a lot of people won't come to work when they're ill because they can't. So by nipping it in the bud and just removing that person, I don't mean permanently, just, in fact, if you paid for them to go on holiday, If you gave them like, here's 1,000, here's £2,000, go away for a week, come back when you're feeling better, and go and just spend £2,000, go on holiday somewhere, just keep away from the office, go anywhere but here. Here's £2,000 spending money on top of your wages. The company would be financially better off than letting that person stay there for the day. And they've never been able to realise that. It's like almost, and these are like really clever people. That's what I never understood. Like these, I'm just a dum-dum, but these are clever business people that, got multi-billion-pound companies, and they have ill people. They allow ill people, infectious people to come into their office. Not all, obviously, but everyone that I've ever worked in has been, you got to come in. Unless you're dead, you got to come in. I remember there's this woman, and she didn't want to be there. She was ill, and but the supervisor was a bit of a knob, and he wouldn't let her go home. I'm like, no, just see it out till you've only got another 5 hours left. And I said to her, well, just throw up on the desk. If you can force yourself, make yourself, because she felt like she was going to throw up, just throw up all over the desk, all over the computer, all over, really make a mess. They will send you home, and they will not want you back tomorrow. They won't want you back for as long as it takes to erase that memory from their mind. So when you phone tomorrow and say, I'm still unwell, they'll be okay. They won't argue. They won't give you a hassle, because, almost you've proved that you're unwell. But not every illness involves vomiting, does it? It's like a flu, bad stomach, whatever. It's weird though, because I remember I had a job, I broke my hand and I couldn't work for about 6 weeks. No argument there, because I needed my hand. There was no other job I could do. It wasn't in a call centre. This was in an industrial job I had. I needed both hands. Couldn't work with one hand. So it was like, okay, see you in 6 weeks. That's it. There's there's no argument on that. You've got a broken hand, and that's it. There's a hero. Coughing. Man, I don't know how people who live together put up with it. I know some people are just always, like, they've got a cold constantly. It's almost like every few weeks. You got a cold. It's like, you need to sort this out. It's not natural to have a cold all the time. This is weird. I mean, unless it's an allergy, then this ain't going on there. I don't know what. See, my dad, he forgets when he's had colds, but they get colds. My dad and his wife. But they live in a cold house. He's one of these old dinosaurs that think that you should have, the heating should only come on in October, and it should go off at the end of March. Shouldn't come on again after that. Also, my voice is going croaky. Hope I haven't got a cold. Otherwise, I will be doing these recordings with that tune in my head. There's a hero. Everybody needs a hero. I should stop singing. So I remember he can't. I don't think my dad feels the cold. He'll walk around in t-shirts like this in the winter. He'll walk through his garden up and down, and doesn't feel it, I don't think. Constantly got colds. I mean, they're in a cold house. They must like it. I don't like it. I don't like cold houses. Although I do have the windows open. I have the heating on, but I do have the windows open. So I like air. I find air's useful. But I don't want to be cold. You know, I've got a t-shirt on now. But when I make these recordings, I generally have a t-shirt on. I will put a jacket on or jumper or something. I'm not bothered. I don't expect to be hot. I don't want to be hot. I just don't want to be cold. I just want that edge taken off and so that I'm comfortable. So the idea, and I've lived in the places where people don't have the heating on after a certain part in the year, you know, end of March, bang, gone, until beginning of October. And anyone that lives in this country knows and will tell you that we have sometimes the coldest weather. The cold, you know, in April, even May, even in the summer, we have really cold periods. And then we have really warm periods. Sometimes in November or December or January, we have some really beautiful days. But, so you need to sometimes have the heating on because it's cold. Instead of being a trooper. Like, oh, I'm a trooper. I'm special. I'm wonderful. I haven't got the heating on. And yeah, but you're cold and you're feeling unwell. Why? Just turn the heating on. Just for an hour. You don't have to have it on all the time. Just for a little while. Although the government are trying to get. Oh man, it's so weird here at the moment. For those, it's probably weird everywhere. It probably always has been weird. This whole planet's weird. Life is weird. It's just weird. But I never thought that things would become the way they are. It's very strange. And it's all, I don't know. It's like the government have decided to keep the population of this country on the edge of their seats the whole time and doing everything to scare them, to scare us all the time, constantly. Everything's a catastrophe now. Everything's a crisis, literally everything. There's so many crises going on right now that, and then sometimes I just look out the window or I'll go for a walk in the fields and there's nothing different. It's the same as what it was 5 years ago. The birds are there or the birds aren't there. The grass is, you know, it's either muddy or it's dry or it's windy or it's not windy. It's just what it is. No crisis. Nothing. No big deal. It's just getting on with life. And maybe I say to myself, I'm going to stop watching the news because it's not healthy. But it's kind of difficult because I do like to know what's going on. I do. By the way, if you see, I'm just sitting like that for ages. I don't know why. This is all different because I had my camera set up and it was all kind of... I thought I'd got a nice little system going until that stupid recording studio decided to stop working properly. And I bet it's something very simple. I even reset it to factory settings, thinking that that would reset it back to how it was when I first bought it. Hasn't worked. And it's starting to feel a little bit cold in here now, even though I've got the lights on. They're very bright, very warm. And the TV behind me, that lets off a little bit of heat as well. And there's the kind of the electrical heat from all the electrical equipment and stuff. And there's quite a few bits buzzing and whatever. But it's not feeling particularly warm in here right now. And I got one window slightly open just over there, but all the other windows are closed. I've got the door closed, so there's no air coming in, like no coldness coming in. I mean, sometimes I'll be sweating doing this. I literally be sweating, and I guess the heating's not on, so I might have to turn the heating on. Mind you, once I put a top on, I won't need the heating on. You know, if it takes the edge off, I'm fine. I don't need to be sitting here topless, wobbling me boobies about, watching telly. I don't need to do that. I'm quite happy to wear clothes, and I do wear clothes. Apart from, just having to keep cleaning the seat of the settee, just, the sofa. Just, I like to have a top on, as long as it's loose. That's fairly loose. It's not like tight. But I prefer just t-shirts, very big, loose t-shirts, and maybe a cardigan or something on top. And then I can undo it. Because good things with cardigans, and this is really boring, is you can undo the cardigan, can't you? And go like that. Or undo it completely. Or take it off, or put it back on. Do it all the way up. It's a good thing. They're quite flexible. That's probably in the top 50 of the most boring things I've ever said in my life. And I've said a lot of boring things. Wow. I like to wear cardigans because you can undo them. You can unzip them. That's boring. Boring. Ah, dear. Anyway, thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself. Because you deserve to be happy. Lots of love. Bye.